2 podiums in a row now, of course. That must give you a little bit more confidence heading to Brazil in these final few races of the season.
Yeah. I think we are doing a really good job at extracting every single bit out of this car. In the last 2 weekends, I don't think we've got anything to be angry about. I think we really did everything we could. The potential of the car remains the same, and we know that in the development race we stopped earlier than the others to focus on next year, but I think we are doing a really, really good job with what we have.
Can a simple race decision change everything in Formula One? What if I told you that a well-timed virtual safety car saved Leclerc from imminent disaster and left Verstappen speechless? Stay, because today you will discover how the Mexican GP redefined Ferrari's expectations for 2025. From the lights out to the penultimate lap, Charles Leclerc's performance at the Mexican Grand Prix was a master lesson in emotional control, concentration, and mechanical endurance. But what makes it one of the most impressive of the year is not only the pure performance of the Monegasque driver, but the fact that it was a feat as precise as it was precarious. A colossal race that, without an unexpected twist of fate, could have fallen apart in the last moments. Leclerc started from second position with determination visible from the grid. The SF25 performed impeccably during the first laps, benefiting from a setup that prioritized traction in slow corners and efficiency in passing through medium corners. While Lando Norris escaped with an intractable pace at the front, Leclerc focused on maintaining his margin over the chasing group. Ferrari's strategy was clear from the beginning: protect the position, conserve tires, and avoid the trap of overheating at altitude. And it worked. For more than 50 laps, Leclerc did not make a single visible error. His rhythm was solid, constant, without oscillations. The ERS's power management was precise, radio communication with his engineer, serene. But beneath that appearance of dominance was a growing threat that only the strategists on the wall knew how to read clearly. Max Verstappen was running an alternative strategy with soft tires in the final stint, and came with a pace difference of almost 2 seconds per lap. At that point, the race became a countdown. Leclerc had more than 12 seconds lead with less than 10 laps to go. But the degradation of its medium tires began to accelerate at an alarming rate. The SF25, designed for constant pace, was beginning to slide slightly at the rear. The sensors showed that the temperature in the rear axle was rising, and graining was beginning to appear. Every fast corner became a threat, every acceleration a roulette wheel. Meanwhile, Verstappen entered a full attack phase. He had saved energy, lowered the fuel load, and activated the most aggressive mode of the engine map. Red Bull was betting everything on the last push. The telemetry showed it clearly. He was gaining between 1.8 and 2.2 seconds per lap. On the radio, the message was clear: I was going to catch up. And he reached it. With 2 laps remaining, the difference was reduced to less than 2 seconds. Overtaking was inevitable. Leclerc knew it. His radio messages were short, with a tense tone. He asked for help, options, suggestions. But there was nothing Ferrari could do strategically. The only thing left to do was resist, wait for a mistake, or a miracle. That miracle came in the form of a top. Carlos Sainz, the former Ferrari, now at Williams, lost control in the stadium area. His car was left in a bad position with smoke coming out of the back. Race management reacted instantly. It deployed the virtual safety car. The race was neutralized just as Verstappen was preparing his final maneuver. The effect was devastating. The distance between both cars froze. The attack was cancelled. For a minute and a half, all the tension built up during the race turned into disbelief. At Red Bull, the faces said it all. The perfect plan had been ruined by an external and unpredictable factor. Leclerc crossed the finish line in second position, just 0.7 seconds ahead of Verstappen. An insignificant margin that, under normal conditions, would have disappeared before the next straight line. His celebration was contained, almost timid. In the interview afterwards, he was honest: "My tires were dead. The VSC saved me. Without it, it was impossible to keep it behind." But that statement should not be interpreted as pure luck. Leclerc built that position over 70 laps of impeccable effort. The miracle did not give him the result. He only prevented it from being taken away from him in his last breath. And that is a crucial distinction. Because in Formula One, winning doesn't always mean being the fastest. Sometimes it's a matter of resistance, others' strategy. And on occasions like this, knowing how to survive the exact moment when everything can collapse. The Mexican Grand Prix gave us an unforgettable chapter. A battle against time, against wear and tear, and against one of the most relentless drivers on the grid. And although Leclerc did not win, what he did on that track deserves to be remembered as one of the most heroic and dramatic acts of the 2025 season. Charles Leclerc's result in Mexico was a moral victory for Ferrari, but on the other side of the garage, the atmosphere was completely different. What seemed like a historic day for the Italian team became a painful reality. The double podium eluded them due to a penalty that not only altered the final order of the race, but also exposed an internal fragility that they have not yet resolved. And at the center of it all, Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton arrived at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez loaded with expectations. After an irregular start to the season, Mexico represented an unbeatable opportunity to consolidate its adaptation to the SF25. His classification was impeccable. Third on the grid, just a few tenths behind Leclerc and Norris, showing that the process of understanding the car was progressing. Furthermore, his long-run pace during practice had been promising. Ferrari was betting on a double podium. Everything was aligned. Until it wasn't. What came next was a sequence of contacts, corrections and movements that did not go unnoticed. Although none of the cars were damaged, race management determined that Hamilton had crossed the limits of the regulations by generating a forced maneuver that altered Norris' trajectory and forced Verstappen to cut the chicane. The penalty came a few laps later, 10 seconds. But what in other circumstances could have been a manageable setback, in this case became a sentence. Because Hamilton's pace was not enough to build a difference that would neutralize the penalty. He was trapped in difficult traffic, unable to get the most out of the SF25 and without the benefit of an alternative strategy that would allow him to get unstuck. Ferrari, having opted for a conservative approach, also did not help him with an early stopping window. The Briton lost time behind slower cars, including the Alpines and Behrmann's Haas, which made any attempt to minimize the damage difficult. On the radio, the frustration was evident. Hamilton asked for more strategic freedom, he even asked for a second arrest. But from the wall, the answers were dry, hesitant. Ferrari's decision-making structure, which has historically been criticized for its slowness and conservatism, once again showed its cracks. What could have been corrected with boldness ended up being aggravated with passivity. When he crossed the finish line, Hamilton was 8th. The penalty had sunk him in the table. And the contrast was painful. While Leclerc celebrated a podium saved at the last moment, Hamilton returned to the pits with his helmet on, body language closed, silence as the only response. There were no explosive statements. I didn't need them. The message was clear. He had done his part, but the system had not been up to the task. The most worrying thing for Ferrari is not only the specific result, but what it represents. Hamilton had finally managed to show speed. He had passed his learning curve cold. He had qualified ahead, he had attacked at the beginning, and he had shown himself to be a real contender. But at the crucial moment, the combination of a disputed penalty and an inert strategy robbed him of a legitimate reward. And in modern Formula One, where every point counts, these mistakes cannot be repeated. Hamilton's missed podium not only left Ferrari bittersweet. He also sent a message to the rest of the paddock. The Italian team has improved, yes. He has a competitive car. It has capable pilots. But its biggest rival is not McLaren or Red Bull. It is the reflection of their own historical errors. The difference between success and frustration remains in the details that Ferrari has not yet fully mastered. And the most intriguing thing is what will come next. Because Hamilton is not a driver who settles. History has shown us that, when pushed against the ropes, he responds with an intensity that changes championships. What happened in Mexico was not a defeat. It was a warning. And if Ferrari learns its lesson, this race may not be the end, but the true beginning of its season. When we talk about the 2025 Mexican Grand Prix, we are not simply remembering another race on the calendar. We are faced with a story that encapsulates everything that makes Formula One unique. Talent at the limit, strategic decisions that become tragedy or redemption, and an ingredient that cannot be measured with data or telemetry: chance. Charles Leclerc's second place cannot be understood only in statistical terms. What happened at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez was a perfect representation of the art of resistance. Because that's what the Monegasque pilot did. He resisted. Against a car that no longer responded, against a tire that collapsed at every corner, against the imminent attack of an unstoppable Verstappen, and perhaps most challenging, against the pressure of knowing that any mistake at any time would leave him with nothing. Leclerc was meticulous for 70 laps, perfect in his lines, masterful in his energy management. But in modern Formula One, that is not always enough. If fate had not intervened with that virtual safety car, the story would be different. And that is where this race becomes even more significant. because it reminds us that even in the most technical sport in the world, there are moments where fortune writes the outcome. And yet, reducing Leclerc's achievement to a stroke of luck would be a mistake. Luck doesn't come alone. It only favors those who are prepared. And he was. Every decision on the track, every lap sustained under pressure, every corner defended tooth and nail contributed to placing him in the exact place to benefit from that moment of chaos. It's a moral victory that reinforces his role within the team and in the narrative of this season. Now that you know what really happened in Mexico, do you think Leclerc deserved that podium? And Hamilton, was he a victim or protagonist of his own fall? What's coming will be even more intense, because this season does not forgive, and each race can rewrite everything. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.